Hello everyone. Welcome to First Online University, a global platform for all your education and growth related needs. In this lecture, we are going to start with a new chapter that is polymers. Now, polymers are basically long chain compounds which are considered of small units which are known as monomers. So, monomers join together to form polymers. That's the very basic of what we need to know about polymers. In this particular lecture, we'll be discussing an introduction to polymers, and there are various bases on which we can classify polymers. The one that we are going to discuss in this particular lecture is the classification of polymers based on their source. Before we begin, a piece of information for you. You can use the coupon codes Mission J or Mission NEET while you enroll at First Online University for Mission J or NEET in order to avail good discounts. Let us now first of all begin with the introduction to polymers. Now, when I talk about polymer, poly, as is clear from the name, poly means many, and mer means unit or part. So, many parts or many units, right? For example, when I say biomolecules, now when we talked about biomolecules such as proteins, proteins are polymers of amino acids. So, there are many units of what unit? Amino acid, right? As you can see in the picture also. Then do you know what a fiber is? A fiber is a thin thread-like material which can be spun or woven into a fabric. So what we are wearing, this cloth, is a fabric, and what it is made up of is very thin fiber which is like spun or woven to form this entire fabric, out of which clothes are made. As you can see in this picture, these are thin fibers and thick fabric is formed. Then they can be short or long, thick or thin. Now, when we talk about polymers, the term polymer is defined as very large molecule having very high molecular weight. Now, because the molecule is very large, it will definitely have a very high molecular weight, which is 10 raised to power 3 to 10 raised to power 7 atomic units. Atomic mass units, AMU or simply U, and these are also referred to as macromolecules. Micromolecules are tiny molecules, macromolecules are huge molecules. Polymers are high molecular mass compounds formed by joining together large number of simple molecules known as monomers. So when monomers join together to form a large polymer, it has a very high molecular mass. For example, if I talk of polythene, now polythene that you commonly use to carry substances, okay, when you go to a market, you buy something, you carry it to your home in a polythene, right? So polythene is also a polymer, and the monomer of polythene is ethene, right? The molecular formula C2H4, ethene, CH2 double bond CH2. Now, how do we form ethene? So when we have say n molecules of ethene, they join together, what happens is that this single bond breaks. So a homolytic cleavage of the double bond, that is the pi bond, takes place, so that each of the two will get one radical each. Similarly, the other one will also form one radical each. So each carbon atom has now a free electron, and these can combine together to form a bond. And similarly, we can have a long chain polymer being formed, right? So various molecules of ethene can be linked together in this particular way, and we form the polymer polythene. Now, since we know that the monomer is ethene and is joining together to form the polymer polythene, how do we define polymerization? If we have seen this example, on the basis of this example, how do we define polymerization? So, the process by which monomers are converted into polymers are called polymerization. That process is called polymerization. Now, what do we mean by a macromolecule? Now, high molecular mass compounds, okay, or definitely a compound is going to have a high molecular mass when it is a large molecule, right? So, high molecular mass compounds are also are called as macromolecules. All the polymers and macromolecules are the same in all respects. Is that? No. See, then what is the case that can we say that all polymers are macromolecules and all macromolecules are polymers? No, that is not the case. Yes, we can say that polymers are macromolecules, but not all macromolecules are polymers. So polymers have essentially a repeating structural unit, whereas a macromolecule may or may not possess a repeating structural unit. So all polymers can be called as macromolecules, but all macromolecules cannot be called as polymers, right? Now, based on this, let's quickly have a look at few MCQs. A high molecular weight molecule which does not contain a repeating structural unit, does not contain, is called polymer, macromolecule, both A and B, or none of these. Now, when it does not contain a repeating unit, it will be a macromolecule, but it will not be a polymer. So, option B, macromolecule, is the correct answer. Next question is, polymers are high molecular mass compounds, correct? Macromolecules, correct. So both A and B or none of these, both A and B. Option C is the correct answer. A fiber is a thread-like structure which can be spun or woven into a fabric. Is a dash thread-like structure. Thin, thick, both A and B or none of these. We have seen it can be both thin and thick, but when we talk about a fiber being woven, the thickness comes from many fibers being joined together, right? So it is a thin thread. We have studied the definition. So option A is the correct answer. Next, we move on to the classification of polymers, and the first classification will be on the basis of the source of these polymers. So classification of polymers is going to be on the basis of sources, that is from where they are obtained, on the basis of the structure of the polymers, that is the arrangement of the monomers. Then we have based on the modes of polymerization, that is how they are made, which mode, addition or condensation, etc. And lastly, based on molecular forces, what type of forces are involved, like is it hydrogen bonding or is it van der Waals forces? Okay, so these four classifications is what we are going to study. Let's first of all look at the first classification, that is classification on the basis of the source, that is from where they are obtained. Now, polymers on the basis of source can be classified into two types. One is natural polymers, the other is artificial polymers. Now, as is clear from the name itself, natural polymers are those which are obtained from nature, and artificial polymers are those which are synthesized by man. Okay. Let us have a look at natural polymers first of all. So polymers which are obtained from natural sources are known as natural polymers. That is plants and animals. Okay, they're obtained from plants and animals. For example, protein, cellulose, starch, some resins and rubber. Then artificial polymers are the polymers which are made by humans and they are known as artificial polymers. They are either made completely by humans or they modify certain properties of natural polymers and now they will be called as synthetic polymers or artificial polymers. So, when we have divided it into natural and artificial polymers, natural polymers can be further classified into animal polymers and plant polymers, or we also call animal polymers as protein fibers and plant polymers as vegetable fibers or cellulose fibers. Then artificial polymers can be man-made polymers, synthetic polymers, for example, polythene. So let's look at these further classifications or sub-classifications in greater details now. The first one in natural polymers that we studied was animal polymers. So animal polymers are obviously those polymers that are obtained from animals. Like we have silk, which is fibroin, as you can see in the picture, silk sarees, silk clothes, they're very beautiful to look at. Then we also have wool, which contains the protein keratin, okay, as you can see in the picture. Then we have plant polymers. Obviously, the polymers that are obtained from plants are called as plant polymers. For example, we have cotton, we have jute, we have rubber, and we also have flax. Okay, hemp is also the one which is used in paper. Then we have linen also, which is the purest form of cellulose. All these are obtained from plants. Now, based on this, let's quickly have a look at few MCQs. Plant fibers are also called as vegetable fibers, cellulose fibers, both A and B or none of these. So, we have seen they are called as both A and B. So, option C is the correct answer. Next question, animal fibers are also called as cellulose fibers, protein fibers, both A and B or none of these. See, cellulose fibers, we give the name to plant fibers, okay, not the animal fibers. So they are known as protein fibers. Option B is the correct answer. Next question, which of the following is a plant polymer? Rayon, silk, hemp, wool. So we have seen plant polymer is hemp. Option C is the correct answer. So you need to remember the examples of animal polymers and plant polymers. It is very, very important to actually remember that. Now we move on to the second category, that is synthetic and semi-synthetic polymers, that is artificial polymers. Now when we have to classify polymers into natural and artificial, in artificial we have further categorization into semi-synthetic polymers and synthetic polymers. So semi-synthetic polymers, as is clear from the name, semi-synthetic means the natural polymers are modified in such a way that they become synthetic polymers now. But since the origin was from the natural fibers itself, therefore we cannot call them as completely synthetic fibers. We call them as semi-synthetic fibers. Okay. So semi-synthetic polymers are also known as regenerated polymers. So properties of natural polymers are enhanced by chemical modification. Entire polymers are made in factories. Entire polymers are not made in factories actually. Natural polymers, okay, so do not go by this statement. Natural polymers are modified. So this modification is carried out in factories. Entire polymers are not produced in factories. For example, cellulose acetate. So cellulose is the natural polymer that we have. And when we produce modifications in that, we introduce the acetate group. Then we call it as cellulose acetate, which is nothing but rayon. Then we have cellulose nitrate also. Buna S is a very important polymer when you talk about rubbers. Buna S has a very important role to play. Then what are synthetic polymers? Synthetic polymers are completely man-made polymers, and they, the examples include polythene, nylon. We have Teflon also, bakelite. So polythene, as I've already told you, is used to carry your, material when you get, like when you have to carry things. Polythene, you know what polythene is. Then nylon is basically used in making of ropes and other such materials. Teflon is used to make utensils, okay, and bakelite is basically used in the switchboards. Now based on this, let's quickly have a look at few MCQs. Rayon is natural silk, natural rubber, artificial silk, or none of these. So we have seen rayon is artificial silk. Option C is the correct answer. Next question, which of the following is a natural polymer? Teflon, Buna S, cellulose, or none of these? So Teflon and Buna S we know are man-made or synthetic polymers. Cellulose is the natural polymer. Option C is the correct answer. Next question, which of the following is used in making tires? Teflon, cellulose, Buna S, or none of these? As I've already told you, Buna S has a very important role to play when we talk about rubber. And rubber is used to make tires. So you should be able to correlate from this statement that I made that it is Buna S. Okay. Option C is the correct answer. So the one who has been attentively listening to what I'm saying, apart from what is written on the slide, would have been able to answer this question. So really good. So this is all that we had to cover in the introduction part and the classification of polymers based on their source. In the next lecture, we'll take up another classification of polymers. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel for joining YouTube live classes for best NEET or JEE coaching. You can also download the First Online University mobile app through Google Play Store or App Store for continuous learning through your smartphones. Keep learning with First Online University, a team of millions of learners and educators worldwide.